Jules, I was thinking that maybe we witnessed Manchester United's best performance under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Some may argue, but to delve deeper into it, let's go to Mark Ogden. Augie, thanks for coming on board. Do you agree? Was this as good as we've seen United play in a long time? Certainly under this manager?
Well, yeah, I think.
Come on,
right.
show him some love. It's hard for you, I know.
I know.
Listen, it's difficult because with Solskjaer, there's been so many extreme highs and extreme lows, and there have been a couple of good performances prior to this one. You know, I mean, right from his first game when he won 5-1 at Cardiff, which was, you know, a good performance. But you have to kind of talk about the class of the opposition, the leaders of the Bundesliga, Champions League semi-finals last season. You know, Leipzig did have long periods in control of the game last night, but yeah, you know, United ultimately blew them away with a late blitz from Marcus Rashford. So I can't think of many better performances, but with Solskjaer, it's so difficult to pin down his best and his worst because there's been so many examples of both.
Well, what struck me about this game was, obviously people will look at this and say, look, they played really well. They moved to the diamond, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But, you know, United did it without arguably their two best individuals, in Bruno Fernandes and Rashford, both of whom came off the bench. Leipzig also had a number of key players out who I think would have been very important. Leimer, Mukiele, Sabitzer, who's on the bench. But ultimately, though, I thought what really impressed me about United is, yeah, they played on the counter, they conceded the initiative, but it wasn't just sitting deep and booting the ball over the top for somebody to run onto. It was very active, very intense, very physical. You know, they pressed in midfield, they didn't press up the pitch, and that's how they scored the first goal. So I thought that was really, really encouraging, as of course was the fact that they moved to a diamond. We saw Van de Beek involved, which is something that, you know, Jules and I had suggested. I'm sure we're not the only ones. All of this is good, right? But how do you build on it?
Yeah, it is good. And I think beyond that, I think there's certain players that have been, you know, out of favour this season, Pogba being one, Mason Greenwood the other. You know, the first goal, no other midfielder at United can make that run and make that pass to Mason Greenwood for the goal. So I think when you get Pogba playing like that at his best, it shows you what the player has. It's when he isn't quite as focused and quite as on his game as he was last night. And I do think playing in the Champions League helps some of these players. It certainly helps Pogba. I think that it's a more tactical game in the Premier League, that there's less kind of defensive duties on Pogba's shoulders, and I think he thrives in this environment. You know, last night and then against PSG, apparently he created assists last night and last week, the first time he's created assists for 18 games in the Champions League. So he's doing something right.
I got to jump in there because, sorry, Mark, you said something which I think is pretty extraordinary, and I don't think you would have said 5-10 years ago. I think a lot of people wouldn't expect that. You said it in passing because I think when you watch something up close, maybe you don't notice the changes. But you said the Champions League is a less tactical environment than the Premier League.
No.
And in some ways, I would agree with you.
No, I won't say less tactical. I think
that's a change, no?
I think that the Premier League demands more of Pogba's attention, concentration levels. I think in the Champions League, I always find the Champions League more structured. It's more easy to gauge what's happening. The Premier League, it's a bit haphazard at times. And if you play like Pogba, who, if you give him a plan and what to do, he'll do it and stick to it. If he has to think for himself on the pitch, that's when the problems start. And in the Premier League, he has to think more for himself. I just found it looked good last night. It looked much better than he has done for a long time. And whether that was because Fernandes wasn't there, you know, kind of cramping his space, whether it's because Van der Beek was alongside him to, you know, do some of his running for him, I don't know. But he certainly looked a lot better last night. And I thought Van der Beek, it took a bit of criticism on social media, Van der Beek, for his performance. So I thought he was okay. I thought he got involved. He was certainly a better option than Jesse Lingard.
All right, come on. Let's say the Jesse Lingard. Jules.
Football here. No, I agree. I thought Van der Beek was good. I think he helped Pogba when you play him in that favourite position in the midfield three on the left, like in his Juve years. And then I also think, and it was a really good performance. They were very clinical, very efficient. But I'm not sure what Nagelsmann was trying to do with his jacket first, and then with his tactics and playing Dani Olmo so deep. For me, even without Sabitzer from the start, even without Mukiele, it makes no sense.
Right, I'm going to deal with a big issue.
What Leipzig was to do, okay. It made no sense.
I'm going to deal with a big Leipzig issue, and then you guys can talk about the tactics. The jacket, okay? It's very simple. We've all been around footballers. A lot of people who are in that football environment are footballing nerds. Some of them are way into fashion. Some of them only discover their fashion side a little bit later.
Don't take any risk. Do not take any risk.
Why
play safe? Play safe. No. Otherwise, you're a joke.
Nagelsmann is a rule breaker. He's not somebody who plays it safe. I fully endorse the jacket, even though objectively it probably didn't quite work out the way he did. Mark, did it feel like, I mean, you saw Leipzig last season and so on, obviously very different. There's no Schick, there's no Werner. They were missing some key players. Do you think they played well up until that second goal?
I think they certainly controlled the game, but then that United allowed them to control the game. That's the way that it's played. I thought that, I sort of thought that at the back they were hot and cold, shall we say. Upamecano looked great when he had the ball at his feet, but defensively he was very rash at times, making some bad decisions. I think he was exposed a couple of times last night. So for me, Leipzig didn't look like the best team in Germany right now. They look like a team that, like you say, they're missing key players. They haven't really found an answer to losing Timo Werner. But as for the jacket, I think, look, it's a great decision because nobody's talking about the 5-0 defeat this morning. They're talking about his fashion sense.
Yeah.
So he's had a real win there, hasn't he, Nagelsmann?
Augie, I cannot believe that you're talking about Nagelsmann's jacket before you bring up the fact that Rashford made history.
Yeah, that was the quickest hat-trick scored by a substitute in the Champions League. And I think, Rashford's really kind of making an impact in the Champions League this season. He's been desperate to get back on the big stage. You've seen people like Erling, Haaland and Mbappe, really steal the show on the biggest stage. And, Rashford last night showed he deserves to be there. And I think, he's 23 on Halloween. I think he's coming to the age now where he has to, kick on. I think he's really doing that. And last night, a fantastic hat-trick.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.